Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm greeting you from Ananda Village in California. It's a joy to be with you. Let's begin with a prayer together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, great masters, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Master Paramhansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. Bless our satsang with thy divine presence, thy touch of love and joy in our hearts. We are here to attune ourselves to thee. Bless us now. Om Shanti, Shanti. We'll have a song now and then an excerpt from a talk by Swamiji on the topic of the balanced life. Welcome again to everybody.
Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Fling to the ground every heavy burden. Now I can soar up above the clouds. Lightly I fly when I live in laughter. Lightly I fly when my heart sings.
We find on the one hand that the great teachers of the ages, Buddha being a prime example when he taught the way of moderation in contradistinction to the extreme ways that he'd been practicing when he first came on the spiritual path of starving himself and never sleeping and trying to punish the flesh, as it were, in order to somehow make the soul transcendent. And then he realized that this was not getting him divine realization, and so he sought what he called the moderate way, the way of balanced living, the path of moderation. This is our path too, and is what Yogananda stressed. We find, on the other hand, that a lot of people use this concept of moderation to excuse lack of sincerity and seriousness on the path. And they will tell you not to be a fanatic if you're doing anything that they don't happen to be doing at the time. In other words, if a banker decides that he's going to spend 5 minutes a day meditating, his friends are going to say, don't be a fanatic. You should be living a balanced life. And so we find that there has to be some kind of an understanding of what is meant when we speak of the balanced life, not to balance spirituality with worldliness, but it's got to have some deeper meaning. We must also remember that Buddha, his version of the balanced life was rather, well, what did he do? He went and sat under a banyan tree and vowed never to stir from that spot until he'd realized God. This is not exactly your banker's idea of the balanced life. If woman hadn't discovered him there and given him food, he probably would have starved to death anyway, even as he was doing before he took up this so-called moderate path. So we've got to realize that the masters have some other meaning. Yogananda said an interesting thing once. He said, you can't afford to become fanatical until you have some realization. And by fanatical, he didn't mean imbalance in this case. What he was really talking about is what I wanted to get into today. What seems fanatical to some people may not at all be in opposition to the path of balance, of balanced living. What we want to do is discover that degree of balance that will enable us to go as fast as we can on the path. Balance in that case doesn't mean juggling all your worldly desires and still having a little time for God. It may mean that, but the essence of it is not that. The essence of it is the flywheel, which, if it's absolutely centered, you can spin it as fast as it can go and it will still remain stable. But if a flywheel is a little bit off center, a little bit off balance, then the faster it goes, the more the pressures build up inside it, until finally they may become strong enough for the flywheel to just fly apart, explode. And so what we're trying to do is find that level of balance within ourselves that will enable us to race toward God.
Welcome again, friends. I'd like to start this topic, the balanced life, with the reading from Autobiography of a Yogi. This is from a reading of Master's Samadhi with this guru, Swami Sri Teswarji. Suddenly the breath returned to my lungs. With a disappointment almost unbearable, I realized that my infinite immensity was lost. Once more, I was limited to the humiliating cage of a body, not easily accommodative to the spirit. Like a prodigal child, I had run away from my macrocosmic home and imprisoned myself in a narrow microcosm. My guru was standing motionless before me. I started to drop at his feet in gratitude for the experience of cosmic consciousness, which I had long passionately sought. He held me upright and spoke calmly, unpretentiously. You must not get overdrunk with ecstasy. Much work yet remains for you in the world. Come, let us sweep the balcony floor. Then we shall walk by the Ganges. I fetched a broom. Master, I knew, was teaching me the secret of balanced living. The soul must stretch over the cosmogonic abysses while the body performs its daily duties. When we set out later for a stroll, I was still entranced in unspeakable rapture. How beautiful is that passage. I was at the Los Angeles airport yesterday coming up to Ananda, and then at the Sacramento airport as well. And I just was observing how people were just rushing around, and it was robotic, and no one was really smiling, and there were so many hassles. And what I noticed most of all was no one was centered. And we need to stay centered in the self. Master Swamiji said, Master told him, gave him that advice to remain centered in the self. That means in the spine, within the soul. He said, come out, eat, do your work, whatever you need to do, go back in the self. And I think that's the key to the balanced life for all of us, to be centered from meditation and to go into all of our duties, whatever they may be. We have family life, we have our jobs, we have our sadhana, we have social engagements, we have so many things that we need to do and want to do, but how are we going to do them? I remember someone told me once, well, you're so happy because all you do all day is sit around and chant Om. I said, you have no idea what my life is like. And even just coming here, I'm at Ananda Village in California, just when I only got here less than a week ago, and I flew into San Francisco airport. I went down to Ananda Palo Alto, a little ways away. I stayed there. I did a satsang the next morning. Then I went up to Ananda in Berkeley, my friend's home. I stayed overnight there. Then I flew out of the Oakland airport and I went down to Los Angeles. I spent the weekend there. I gave several programs. Then I got back on the plane. I flew up to Sacramento and my friend picked me up. I stayed overnight at her house. And then I got up to Ananda Village about 12 o'clock today. And now here's the program. And this is the lifestyle that a lot of us have. It's intense. It's fast moving. How can we keep a balanced life? Well, there are a couple of ways. One, we have to have a strong sadhana. You couldn't do anything. Master can't even work through you. And unless you're centered in yourself, unless you're in attunement, and that comes from meditation, morning, strong sadhana, evening, strong sadhana, in the middle of the day, as you can, when you can. And then as you meditate, you keep centered, you keep clear, you keep uplifted. Your consciousness is here at the point between the eyebrows. You're inspired. You have more energy. You have more magnetism. As you do your sadhana, all the practices, energization, the yoga, the pranayama, affirmations, everything that we have, kriya, om, hangsa, keeps you centered in the self, and the higher self. And then from there, as you go out, you're centered in the self. That's what balance is about. And we balance all the aspects of our life when we keep centered. And there was a man, Swami Kriyanandaji met, who he said that his life began when he came home from work, his spiritual life. He would go and do his life. He said, I come home and his work. I come home, I take my bath and I change my clothes. I go into my sadhana room, and that's when my spiritual life begins. And Swamiji thought, what a waste. A whole day should be your life. The life should be balanced. Whatever you're doing should be able to bring God in. And so the meditation and thinking, bringing that vibration, that centeredness, that inspiration into every part of your life is a goal that we all should have. Not, I meditate, then I go out and I run like crazy, and then I go back and now I'm centered again. You try to be centered in the self. You see things differently. As the disciples would go to the movies sometimes, when Master would go, rarely, and they would tap him on the shoulder and say, Guruji, are you, his eyes would be closed, Masters, and they say, are you watching the movie? He said, leave me alone. I'm watching the big movie. We should be watching the big movie, not the nightmare that's going on around. And just you keep your gaze here. This is why we focus here in meditation. This is why we receive our blessing here at satsangs and at kriya and discipleship. And we want to keep our energy up in the self. And secondly, I saw Swami Kriyanandaji. I mean, he put out more energy than anybody I ever met. He was always writing music or writing books or giving lectures or touring around. He had a home in Europe. He had a home in America. He had a home in India. He was running all these different places all at once. But then I saw him. He took breaks. And I remember his advice to me once. I asked him for advice, and he only gave me one piece of advice. He asked me, because he knew me well enough, he said, do you ever take a break, a day off? And I said, not really. And he said, that's not good. So I saw Swamiji take breaks. He would take a vacation. He would take seclusion. He would take days off. He would take in the evenings, he would take time off. He would go for a walk. He would have tea with people, have them over. When he wasn't working at that time, he would chat with people. He would watch a movie sometimes. He would read a P.G. Wodehouse story. And, you know, he was very balanced in that way. And every evening he would cut off at a certain time, and he would have time to recharge, to refresh, to take a break, to get a rest. He might go back to it and, you know, in the later part of the evening, but I saw Swamiji take breaks, vacations, seclusions to recharge, to get back into the self. And that's vital for all of us, instead of the extremes. And most of us are extreme, let's face it. There was the man who Swamiji said he meditated, he knew him in the monastery, he meditated 40 hours straight. I mean, he must have gotten up from time to time, but 40 hours. Soon he left the path. It was extreme. I knew someone here at Ananda who never served. Oh, I only meditate. I just meditate for hours and hours. He was imbalanced. Imbalances come, your health gets poor, you're not as mentally sharp, you don't have as much inspiration or energy or magnetism if you don't balance out your life. And I can say it because I've tried it. I've tried just running hard for a long time, and it's not good for you. And so, and Master told Swamiji that he needed balance, and he was so intellectual. He said, he's told him to develop devotion. He said, if you had stayed the way you were, so intellectual, he said, you would have left long ago. You can't keep up that pace. There are people who work all the time, they don't meditate. I mean, you can fill in the blank where you need to be more balanced. And finally, with Lahiri Mahashaya, he had a balanced life, but how did he have a balanced life? He was blessed by Babaji, met his guru, got Kriya initiation at the age of 33. He kept his job. He wanted to stay with Babaji. Babaji said, no, you go back into the world. Keep your job, go back to your family, go back to your wife and your children, your responsibilities. And he worked in that same job as an accountant for 25 more years. That's a good example. That's balance. And he was always in God consciousness. That's the thing to remember. And I read something where a master said that, Swamiji said that Lahiri Mahashayaji, he just played the role he was given. He had no attachments. He was free already. He had no desires. He just played the role. He played the role of the balanced life. And for all of us, let's play the role we've been given. Master has shown the way. Swamiji lived the life that he's given us to live, a balanced life, meditation, seva, time alone, time in community. All of our life has to be balanced. And when that happens, the balance comes, I've found, when I can remain centered in the self. God bless you. I'll ask Natindra to join now on screen. We have a few questions.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. I'll just share the list of questions. The first question, Dhyanaji, is I don't feel I can get enough meditation in because of my work and family life. And because of that, I actually feel stressed. So what should I do about this?
It's difficult, but why not take short meditation breaks? If you can't get a long meditation, just take 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there. Rather than saying, I just can't do it, why not do what you can do? And then I have found if I tried my best, then Divine Mother gave me more time. But if I said, oh, I just can't do it, then I never find the time. Isn't it so? That's what I found to be true. And I lived in Italy for 7 years and served at the center there. And it was interesting because everybody who came was new. So they came, they didn't know how to meditate at all. I had been meditating for a long time, and all of the staff had. But I remember we couldn't meditate long because the people didn't know how to meditate long. So we could only do 20 minutes. 20 minutes, Om, a lot of chanting, and then Om. And I went to Swamiji and I said, people here, we're not meditating. We just chant all the time. And I remember what he said to me, you need to chant. I needed the balance. 7 years, I chanted, basically. Short meditations, lots of chanting, short meditations, lots of chanting. And I thought, I'm not getting anywhere. But he told me clearly, you need to chant. And he told the whole group of us, I brought you all over here to serve here so that you could open your hearts. And I thought, he's not talking to me. My heart's open. Well, 7 years in Italy, my heart did open. It wasn't open. But you get what you need, isn't it? And so then I came back to Ananda Village and I started serving in the Kriya Yoga Sangha, and I had to meditate. And I led long meditations. I led the Kriya seclusions, Kriya Bond seclusions. I led the Kriya prep. I led the, so then Divine Mother gave me that. So life isn't just this or that. It's moving. It's fluid. There's times when you can meditate more. There's times when you can't meditate more. What I say is do what you can as Divine Mother presents it to you. And I find that people say, I can't do it. Then they're gone to Goa, and just if you got that much time to have a vacation, maybe take one of the days off and have some time for yourself. The other thing you can do is just take maybe, half a day a week, or carve out what you can. 1 hour a week, you can't do that. My gosh, seems like something's way off then. So do what you can. Go to the center, meditate with people there. But you have to be balanced in that. Don't fight it and don't be too passive. I find people are usually too passive. I just can't do it. Then they're gone to a movie. So what are you going to do?
Thanks for the practical tips, Dhyanaji.
Okay.
The next one, Dhyanaji, is how much time should one aim to meditate per day and to serve master's work, let's say, per day?
That's a good question. Swamiji told us at least an hour and a half per day. Now, when people take Kriya, they take at least an hour and a half per day, isn't it? And 3 hours would be good. If one can do 3 hours a day. Most people can't do that, but at least an hour and a half, up to 3 hours a day or more. Now, I'm talking to a mixed crowd here, so it depends on the person. But here again, maybe one day a week, do a longer meditation. And then you have to get into having time for seclusion where you can do long meditations every day. But don't stress yourself. You have to be realistic with what you can actually do. But take the time. And when you have the time, do more. That's the rule of thumb. Make sense?
Absolutely, Dhyanaji. Thank you so much. There's a live question, Dhyanaji.
Okay.
The question is that I too have different phases in daily life. I feel like meditating for 1 hour, but due to time constraints and responsibilities, I'm unable to sit for this long. And then I feel frustrated and guilty. So in those situations, should I not meditate, or should I continue doing the shorter ones as you have mentioned?
Oh God, frustration and guilt don't get you anywhere but lower energy. So I would throw that out the window right away. And at different times you feel differently. Sometimes you can sit after a long day of service or being at work, and you sit down, boom, the meditation's happening. Other times you can do all the preparation, you've done yoga postures, you're energized twice that day, and you sit there and you fall asleep. So what are you going to do? You just have to try. It's fluid and it's flexible. And here's the point. Attitude is more important than anything. If you have the right attitude, you'll come back at it. If you go there with joy, so what if nothing happens? Do 10 minutes of something. And if you go there with a strain, I got to do it, I'm preparing to take Kriya. They told me I had to meditate, and I really don't want to do it. What are you getting out of it? What are you getting out of it? So I would say follow the joy. And you should feel more joy as you meditate more and you serve and you have a balanced life. And, you see people who maybe they went on a special fast or something, not master's diet. I'm not talking about that, but you see them and they just look so unhappy. They look stressed and strained, and you just say, eat something, good heavens. Or, a person has been, the people get too rigid, and then there is guilt. Why didn't I do that? I couldn't, I ate a piece of chocolate. Eat a piece of chocolate. If it's just, really. So that's balance. Instead of, I can never do anything. They told me I can't do it. I can't do it. It's just not worth it. It's a long road. It's a long road. And what can I say that got me through all the different things? Joy. Being happy in myself. That, one day you're doing better, and next day you didn't do so good, then you did better, then it came down, but at least you're heading in the right direction, isn't it so? At least you're heading up, even if there's a dip, then you go up, then there's another dip, it's okay. Who's going to go straight up? Nobody that I know. Unless you're an Aryan avatar, then you wouldn't be watching the program, isn't it right? So.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. We have one last question. Could you elaborate more on what is a seclusion? And if I cannot take a seclusion, what can I do to recharge on a regular basis?
How about taking a half-day seclusion? Half a day. Just do that. What's wrong with that? A seclusion is a time alone with God and gurus. And if you can, you can some people take a month. I've never taken a month, but I've taken a week. It's just blissful, but you have to be ready for that. You can't just go out there and run a marathon and think you fall out, and hurt yourself. So you can't just go out, I'm in seclusion, I'm off of social media, but I really want to get on it. You're having withdrawals. So just take your time, maybe do half a day. What it means is do more of the practices, be with God and gurus, do more yoga postures, do some yoga postures, if not more, energize, meditate a little longer, listen to the talks of Swamijis and masters, study the lessons you've been wanting to read, the books you've been wanting to read, be in silence, be alone, break away from the family and the scene, break away from the world. It's just a wonderful feeling. Even if you do half a day in a year, I mean, that's really bargaining, but do something and then get a taste. You know, if you like a dessert, like, you know, I like apple pie, you might like gulab jamun, but rasmalai, but just a taste. It's just so delicious, isn't it? Once you get a taste of the seclusion, you just say, wow, where have I been? We never have the time to just shut down and go inside. Feel the peace, feel the joy, feel Divine Mother just in your heart, Master just pouring his love into you. It's like Master, that reading from Samadhi, you just feel like just drunk. But if you never have the taste, you don't get it. Then you're just struggling. Like climbing up the top of Mount Everest. I hope I get there. I hope I reach Samadhi. It's like, gosh, just take the first step, get a taste, and then you'll keep wanting to go there. So wonderful. God bless you all. Thank you, Natindra. Bye-bye.